it's all.
All right. In three, two, one. Welcome back to the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Back at it. Glad to have you along. We're back, unlike the Cowboys defense, who's not been back in the first 3 weeks of the season. It's been a tough go for the Dallas Cowboys through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
I'm one that doesn't want to talk NFL, Keaton, because the Packers
Oh,
broke
yeah.
my heart. I left my house and walked about 5 miles in the rain just to cool off. I looked up and I was at Gallows on Old Seward.
Oh,
That's
wow. Okay, that's a little far.
that's a long ways away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
an interesting sidebar, at least I think it's interesting. So I'm walking down the road, trying to avoid getting splashed by cars. A car turns in front of me. Guy rolls down his window. He says, "It's too wet to walk." And I look in the car and it's Willie Paul. And I just kind of grunted and kept walking. And about 20 feet later, I see this car coming up on this huge puddle. The car goes by, nothing's happening. All of a sudden, I get hit by a wave like I was in Hawaii. And I am soaked to the skin. And I got about 5 steps. And I'm just thinking, I'm just going to keep on going.
There you go. Keep trucking
So,
through it. Well, I mean, after a loss to the Browns, I mean, I had Green Bay winning. They were my in my survivor pool. I picked
yeah.
them this week. Yeah, that went out the window. 3 weeks in. Yep.
Wow.
So,
What's happening this weekend in the NFL?
I think there's a Sunday night game.
A
Yeah.
Sunday night game.
Yeah.
And I guess Cowboys. And
Yeah. We'll see how that's gonna go.
if you win, whoever wins is on the podcast next week. The loser's just pouting, probably.
There you go. I can't believe I saw a stat today for Dallas just because we're on this rant about pro sports teams here. Over the last 2 games, they've given up 735 yards passing.
Wow.
735 yards passing in 2 games. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, not going to win a lot of ball games that way. Yeah. So
No.
The Giants and the Bears, the two teams they played in the last 2 weeks, by the way. So,
Yeah,
but
they made the Bears season,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah, they did. They might have. It may have turned around Caleb Williams' career too. Who knows? I don't know. But
Keaton,
uh,
I've already mentioned that it's one of our favorite person's birthday today.
it is. It is our one of our co-hosts of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast, Isaiah Freeman, not on the podcast tonight, but celebrating his birthday tonight. Uh, what is
He's in
he?
Minnesota. Get
40
to do the
doesn't
Wolverine work.
right.
So, you
Doesn't look
know,
a day over 40.
he, he does not. But, you know, oh, maybe a day.
Maybe a day. Maybe by one. Maybe just one. But you're right. No, Isaiah's down in Minnesota doing Anchorage Wolverines stuff, doing their mini camps and whatnot. They've had a couple of exhibition games, I think, under their belt there as well, uh, so far to start their year. And but happy birthday to our broadcast partner Isaiah Freeman. Uh, so hopefully he's celebrating it up, having some fun down there in Minnesota. Forgot to mention Brad Lauwers, Keaton Homer, along with you here on the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that is through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even like us on YouTube and subscribe there as well. A lot to cover here on this edition of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. We are getting down to the final couple of weeks of the regular season in high school football. High school volleyball also in full swing as we're getting into the later stages of high school volleyball season. UAA volleyball as well on tap on this podcast. And Brad, I know that last week we'll start things with Division I football. You had the chance to, see the West Anchorage Eagles and the Service Cougars go at it, and two of the top teams in the Cook Inlet Conference West and Service coming in undefeated, and it was a close game. It
It
was
was, it
everything was built up to be.
was a close game. And Keaton, you and I know that homecoming or senior night is oftentimes a coin flip. You don't know if your team's going to come out fired up, or my coach used to say you can't play homecoming. I mean, you can't worry about who's the prince and who's the princess, and you better concentrate on the game. And he also would say that the a successful homecoming is one where the football team wins. And West didn't necessarily look like it would be them at their homecoming. They were down 6-0 at halftime, but they came back strong in the second half. One misfortune for Services, their quarterback, Rock, watched their team come back on the field. He didn't have a helmet, and that's a bad sign. So a lot of times not having the helmet reminds your coach that, he can't pull you and put you back in the game. It's just kind of a signature move on things like that. But Service, they started running the ball when they're usually a passing attack type team, and Schmidlkoffer and some of their other backs, they're a little undersized, but they ran hard. They fell forward, and they maybe showed a little some of the strength they had from tackle to tackle, and it really got them back in the game.
Yeah, West went on to win that game 17-16. West actually able to pick up a field goal in the, I think, like middle stages of the third quarter. Elias Sandberg able to connect on a shorter field goal by many field goal kicking standards. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 yards that gave West that 17-16 win over Service. But, the Eagles, I'm surprised. I'm somewhat surprised. I mean, the first year head coach. I mean, and now, Tim Davis departing obviously this year. And I don't think I would have thought that they would be undefeated at this point in the season and playing as well as they are. But here they are. It always seems like this time of year, they're in the conversation every year.
They are. And oftentimes in some of the last few years, not necessarily after, seasons on the top of the standings, but they're always seem to be there in the playoffs.
Right.
This season, a little bit different. They won a couple games by margins, but they've, this last game, a perfect example. They've had 3 or 4 games that have come down to one possession. So, the West deservedly being undefeated, but maybe still to be really tested. Or you got to tip your cap though the way they're coming through in close games.
Yeah, you certainly do. I said that Service was undefeated coming in. They were not. They had actually lost a game in conference play coming in. So they're now 3-2 in terms of cooking the conference standings. West is 5-0, 6-0 overall. A team that was looking for their first win of the season, the East Anchorage Thunderbirds. How about this? What a better way to get your first win than over your rival. The boot game. The battle of the boot against Bartlett it wasn't a high-scoring affair, to say the least. But the Thunderbirds able to get in the win column, Brad, and no better feeling than to do it against your crosstown rival.
Yeah, we often talk about the boot game, and a lot of times Bartlett and East are certainly upper half of the conference, so a little bit different for East to be on that end. And there wasn't a lot of the talk about the boot game going in, but I think after East pulled off the 1-point victory, you got to bet they were talking about it in the halls of East High School, and it certainly put a spotlight on that boot game once again.
Yeah, the 23rd edition of the Battle for the Boot, the East Side Boot Game, and Bartlett dropping it to East by a point, 7-6. It's the lowest scoring game between these two schools since 1981, when the T-Birds also won 7-6. So a defensive struggle, but the Thunderbirds able to get it done and pick up their first win of the season in week number 5 week number 6, I should say, of the high school football season. So Service dropping a game to West, 17-16. East winning over Bartlett 7-6. 2 other games in Cook Inlet Conference play, Division I action. Diamond dropping a heartbreaker, Brad, by 1. They've seemed to be so close. A handful of their last games, or a couple of their last games this season. 15-14 to Juneau. Were they down in Juneau for that game, I think?
They were down in Juneau, and actually what a lot of teams are doing lately, Keaton, is they're going down to Juneau the morning of the game. And one of the things and one of the reasons is, maybe in my opinion, maybe in reality, is that you take, you know, 50, 60 football teams, a lot different than taking a 12-person basketball team. That's a lot of kids to account for. And, it's just been a safer thing and a kind of error on the side of safety or whatever to go down that day of game. But it doesn't make it any easier to play that game. Juneau jumped up 15-0. They're a handful to play at home at any time. So Diamond made a bit of a comeback, but it just wasn't enough. So they weren't able to capitalize on the momentum of the come from behind victory the previous week over Colony. And I think East and Diamond are going to match up again. So that the battle for the Red Lantern is certain.
Yeah, you take a look at the standing. We'll get to the standings here in the Cook Inlet Conference here in just a moment. One other game from last week in Division One action: the South Anchorage Wolverines. They have now won 5 in a row. Have the South Anchorage Wolverines after their victory over the Colony Knights, 48-29. So, in terms of taking a look at the Cook Inlet Conference standings, West at the top, as we mentioned, they're undefeated. They're 5-0, 6-0 overall. Followed now by the South Wolverines, who are 4-1 in conference play, 5-1 overall. Bartlett is at 3-2 in conference and 3-2 overall. Service 3-2 now in conference play, 4-2 overall. Juneau 2-3 and 2-4 overall. Colony 1-4 and 2-4 overall. East and Diamond, exact same records, 1-4 conference play and 1-5 overall so far on the season. With a couple of games left to play, we take a look at the games coming up this weekend, this Friday and Saturday. Bartlett is going to take on West, Service, and East. Diamond will take on South, and then Juneau will take on Colony. So the Bartlett, West, and Service East game on Friday. On Saturday, Diamond, South, and Juneau and Colony. Any of those matchups you looking forward to there, Brad, in Division I action?
Yeah, one throwback to something you said previously. I saw West and South game. It was the initial part of the season, and I think South threw a pick six, but that was one of the games that came down to the last possession. And who'd have thought, if the South had actually won the game, it would have been them that was the undefeated team, and West in second place. So that matchup's going to be big. And I'm trying to look at how I wrote that down, but well, certainly, how'd you match it up? Bartlett and
Bartlett
West?
and West, and then Service and East,
Yeah.
and then Diamond South, and Juneau and Colony.
Well, I think the Bartlett West, let's see which team shows up. Really, for both teams, West has played close games. Bartlett, I saw them against Service in that game, and they were just turnover machines. But, you could see the potential that team has. They got a lot of size. They have good athletes. Their quarterback is an exceptional runner as well. So Bartlett has a lot going for them, I think, when they play well. So I think that Bartlett West game is the game I would, if I could only watch one game this weekend, that would be the game I would want.
Yeah, probably pretty good. This is going to be interesting because Bartlett by far has the best defense in the Cook Inlet Conference. West, probably middle of the pack in terms of offensive production, in terms of scoring so far this season, but we know they have the capability to light up the scoreboard. But the story of the year probably has been Bartlett's defense and how good they have been. I mean, even though, yeah, they lost to East by a point, they only gave up 7 points in that game. So anytime you only give up one score, it's usually pretty good. I mean, you're usually on the right side of a lot of ball games there. But Bartlett's had like 2 shutouts this season. I mean, they're led by that stud defensive end. Who was it? Deuce Alafaulea, I think is how you say.
Palaula.
Ah, thank you. See, you know it.
Well,
You
I do.
got it.
I learned it 20 years ago.
Thank you.
So I've tried not to forget it.
All right. So, Deuce, as the kids just call him around, the entire Anchorage Bowl.
Well, I think he's attended a lot of those schools.
Well, now he's at Bartlett. So regardless, he's probably going to be end up defensive player of the year in the Cook Inlet Conference. I mean, the guy is just an absolute menace to deal with defensively. He had 11 tackles, by the way, in that game against uh, East. 11 solo tackles. So pretty crazy there for Deuce. So it will be a good matchup against the West Anchorage offensive line. See how he performs.
One other thing in relation to the Cook, when Bartlett played service, they had great position for a field goal, but a bad angle, so they missed on a field goal. And then Keaton, you can imagine as you're starting to look at the offensive side of the ball a little more, where you go incomplete on 4 snaps from center. So you into the pistol or the shotgun, the quarterback can't track it down. You're usually giving up 8 to 10 yards. And, you talk about penalties, stopping drives. You got to get the ball to quarterback or that offense just isn't going to work.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, when you have to go that quickly, 3 and out or 4 and out offensively, and you're not getting anything moving, it's rather difficult. So, got to get those situations rectified on the offensive side of the ball. That is for sure. All right, so that kind of gives you a recap of Division One. We'll look at Division Two from this past week and recap some scores from D2 as things are starting to take a little bit of shape in the Division Two side. Remember, in terms of playoffs here in a couple of weeks when playoffs start, D1, all 8 teams make it. So everybody from the Cook Inlet Conference is going to be in the playoffs. Division Two, not the case. Top 4 teams, so a semifinal and a championship will make the playoffs, and things are starting to iron themselves out a little bit. We'll take a look at the scores from this past week as Soldotna keeps it rolling. They defeated Wasilla by the final score 58-7. The Wasilla Warriors still looking to pick up their first win of the season. The Chugiak Mustangs hosted West Valley, and West Valley able to battle back in the second half and win 34-21. Chugiak was leading that game 21-8 at halftime, as the Mustangs would only pick up 1 first down in the second half, as the West Valley defense able to shut down the Mustangs offense, and then also the offense for the Wolfpack coming alive to score 27 unanswered points. So pretty impressive second half for West Valley. Palmer and Lathrop back and forth game. The Palmer Moose able to win on their homecoming 40-24 over the Lathrop Malamutes. And then North Pole and Eagle River. Eagle River traveling up to North Pole. They actually led North Pole by 3 scores in the first half at one point, but it was the Patriots able to battle back and win 31-26 over Eagle River last week. So a couple of back and forth games. If you looked at the scores at halftime, you would think, oh, okay, Chugiak may pick up a win or Eagle River might pick up a win, but not the case. Both Fairbanks schools able to pull it out over Eagle River and Chugiak. So I guess the main takeaway there, it's going to be interesting in terms of the 3 and 4 seed in the Division II ranks when we look at D2 football. Soldotna at the top, obviously, Brad. Lathrop and Palmer are tied at 4 and 1. Palmer holding the tiebreaker by virtue of defeating Lathrop. So Lathrop is then in the number 3 spot. As of right now, North Pole has the number 4 spot at 3 and 2. West Valley is behind them at 2 and 3. Chugiak, Eagle River, and Wasilla rounding out the D2 standings. If my math is correct from what I have done and the teams that are left to play, Chugiak, Eagle River, Wasilla kind of on the outside looking in. The 3 and 4 spot, and even the number 2 spot for that matter, depending on how things shake out. North Pole, West Valley, Palmer, and Lathrop all kind of battling it out for 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, Keaton, it's more the same. We talk about it every week. I think that Soldotna is such a dominant factor. But I think what you're saying is going to be 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3.
Right.
They draw up the brackets. So you don't want to be 4th. I mean, you're glad to make the playoffs, but if you come in 4th and know you're catching Soldotna in that first round, but, if you come in 2 or 3, you're going to play the other 2 or 3, and You win that game, then you're in the championship, and you know you can't win it unless you're in it. But
Right. That's
Phil
it.
Hyde made it tough for a long time.
Well, in Soldotna this year, they've been in a couple of close games against D2 schools. I mean, you look at the previous week against West Valley when they traveled up to Fairbanks, they lost by 7, 28-21. So it wasn't like they ran away with it with this game this week against Wasilla when they won 58-7 or some of their other games from earlier on this season. So yeah, you get to the playoffs, and even though you might be the fourth seed out of D2 taking on the number one seed, which right now looks like it could be Soldotna, it could be Palmer or Lathrop as well, because they're only 4-1 and in second place, depending on what happens with 2 weeks left in the regular season. Um, yeah, I mean, Soldotna obviously a powerhouse, but come the playoff time, you never know what could happen. So,
You're right. They're giving up the points, and I think the other thing, when a team works like Saldana, they run their offense. I can't think of a team that executes their offense as well.
right.
By the same token, other schools are just going to watch it. They're going to study it. If you play against it for the first or second time, even if you're a Cook Inlet Conference team, sometimes you can't find the football. It just mystifies you. But we saw where, for example, Lathrop a few years back, you play them enough times, you
Yeah.
start to, take care of A gap, B gap, C gap, and just, make them drive down the field. Don't forget a running back, which can happen. I mean, you and I have broadcast games where there's a guy 30 yards downfield, and you're just starting to guess.
Right, exactly. They carry out those fakes so well and for so long. You're from a broadcasting standpoint, it's like, who's actually got it? Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're better off broadcasting those games on radio
yeah.
because you can kind of
You
fudge
can
the numbers a little bit. But
if it's on the stream, you get caught.
yeah, yeah. And he doesn't have the ball. It was this guy that had it, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
uh looking ahead to this week in Division II football as we get into week number 7 of the high school football season. On Friday night, Chugiak out at Palmer, taking on the Palmer Moose. West Valley and North Pole in a crucial battle there. And then Soldotna will take on Lathrop. Remember, Lathrop last year went down to Soldotna and defeated the Soldotna Stars. So we'll see what happens here this go around. And then Wasilla will take on Eagle River. That game is on Saturday. The other 3 Division II games are on Friday night. So things getting interesting in terms of seeding for Division II. We kind of know the teams perhaps and where they're going to go, but where their teams going to be seated, we'll have to see over the next couple of weeks. Division III scores from this past weekend as we move along here. This past weekend, it's all, let's see. I got to find it. Reddington and Kenai taking on each other. Reddington winning a low-scoring affair, very low-scoring. Reddington Huskies getting the shutout over the Cardinals, 6-0. Houston and Kodiak, the Houston Hawks, defeating the Kodiak Bears, 20-6. Barrow and Homer battling it out. The Barrow Whalers picking up the victory over the Homer Mariners, 22-14. And then in 9-man football, Seward just keeping it rolling. 78-0 victory over Valdez. And then the Student Wrestling Development Program is that new program. They're playing 9-man football up there in Fairbanks, 42-0 over Monroe Catholic in 9-man football. You ever seen a 9-man football game?
I haven't, and I'm thinking when I do, I want to be on a hill or maybe in the second floor of a classroom at Seward High School, looking out over, is that Resurrection Bay?
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful settings, and we have a lot of good ones up here in Alaska. But you can see the field, and then you can see the water, Mount Marathon on your right. I mean, that's the 9-man football game I want to see.
Yeah, that would be a beautiful setting to watch a football game, that's for sure. So that kind of gets you caught up on what's going on in terms of high school football. Remember, only a couple of more weeks left in the regular season before we get into postseason play. So some things still to be sorted out in terms of seeding and things like that over the next couple of weeks. Speaking of high school sports, we'll stick with it. High school volleyball, obviously, in full swing. The Diamond Lynx, Brad, they are coming alive now that the conference play has rolled around. They're undefeated in conference play. I don't think they've had a match this week, have they? I know they were 6-0 coming into
Well,
the week.
going into last Thursday, Friday, the big matchup was South on Thursday. South traveled over to Diamond. And while Diamond won in 3 sets, the score of the first set was 25-21. The second set was 25-23. And the third set was 25-23. So while it looks good to be 3-0 in sets, it shows you how evenly matched those teams are. And then Eagle River came to play the Lynx the next night in what Shawnee Zachary called a trap game. Play the rivalry game that's so intense, and the scores were the same against Eagle River, like a 25-23, 25-23. So again, we talk about how even things are, and we're kind of looking forward to the West Spiketacular, which is this Friday, Saturday, and just be able to see so many teams and kind of another indication of everybody getting to play each other. And it's very unusual for a team to go the gauntlet and finish a tournament like that, winning all their games. So even the top teams are going to face challenges along the way.
Yeah, that's always a terrific tournament, the West Spiketacular. Good chance to see a lot of teams, one location there, and it's always a well put together event for high school volleyball. Just kind of looking at the Cook Inlet Conference and where things are at going into the weekend, or the week, I should say, and the weekend. Diamond and South are at the top of the Cook Inlet Conference, followed by Service and Eagle River, and then Chugach West, East, and Bartlett rounding out the Cook Inlet Conference standings so far this season. You mentioned the Eagle River there, Brad. I think there might be a little bit of surprise there with how well the Eagle River Wolves, have kind of turned things around. I mean, it seemed like for a while they were kind of a dormant volleyball program, but now they're starting to get things going and they're playing some really good volleyball, it seems like.
Keaton, I've signed a contract earlier this year to do PA at Lynx games, and I did that Eagle River game on the PA. So when you do PA, you literally have to learn everybody's name.
Right.
But as I went down the Eagle River roster, there wasn't a lot of names I wasn't familiar with. So what I'm seeing is they've experienced, they have some good size. There may be a little chip on their shoulder having been through the volleyball wars, but you mentioned that they're much improved, but a lot of it's experience, and they're a together team. So it might be a dark horse.
Could be. And we'll see what happens as the volleyball season goes along. Out in the valley, the Northern Lights the Northern Lights Conference, Colony dominating so far, 5-0 in conference play, as they sit atop of the Northern Lights, followed by Saldana at 3-1, Wasilla 2-1, Palmer at 1-3, and Kodiak also looking for their first win of the season. Mid Alaska. Up in Fairbanks, West Valley, Lathrop, and North Pole. West Valley and Lathrop both at 2-1 in conference play. North Pole 0-2 in conference play. And then down in the southeast, you have Juneau and Ketchikan. Juneau still undefeated, 2-0. Ketchikan 0-2 so far through the conference play there. If you want to get updated on the 3A volleyball standings, you can go over to ASAA365.com, get caught up on the 3A and also the 4A volleyball standings as well. So,
Hey, Eden, just a final word on volleyball.
Yeah.
Another page or two, but that West Spectacular or the upcoming Diamond Service Tournament, you're going to see virtually all the teams in the state in
right.
one or both of them, because that's, they're not going to just come up and play one or two matches. They want to have that experience with all the other teams. And, one interconference game this week is Thursday. Diamond's going to travel up to Wasilla, the defending state champs. But a lot of those responsible for that state championship have moved on to college competition. So I think Diamond isn't going to miss the fact that some of those great players have graduated.
Well, speaking of college competition, really brief before we sign it off here, we'll mention that UAA volleyball also in full gear, and the Seawolves back in action at home this week, Thursday and Saturday night. They will take on the Western Oregon Wolves and St. Martin Saints on Thursday and Saturday, both matches at 7 o'clock. The Seawolves are off to a fantastic start this year. They are 11 and 1 overall, 2 and 0 in GNAC play. They are off to their second best start, I think, since like the 2016 season. The Seawolves received I think they missed the top 25 poll by like 2 votes or something this week, so they're on the edge of making the top 25 poll. But yeah, their best start to a season since the 2016 and also the 2022 season as well. That's 2 years where they won the GNAC conference title. So Stacy Meisner has her crew playing really well so far to start the year.
Yeah, and I think about Thursday night. It's not really a conference night for high school teams. It's a great opportunity if you normally watch high school volleyball to go over to UAA. They have, several former, Alaska high school players competing for them. But you've watched it, and they've just been out of town so much. It seems like, and they've achieved a lot being out of town. But it'd be nice to see a lot of fans there at the Alaska Airlines. And then on Saturday, I think you mentioned the 7 p.m. start. Most often in those spectacular or those games, and I'm not completely sure, but a lot of times they'll run their championships at 4 or 5. So be
Right.
nice to see a lot of that crowd
Going over.
jumping on Northern Lights Boulevard, Benson, heading over to the Alaska Airlines.
There you go. If you haven't already, you can get your tickets online. GoSeaWolves.com. Get your tickets in advance for Thursday and Saturday nights matches. Also, to mention UAF, they're also off to a fantastic start. They are 2-0 in conference play and also 11 and 1. So when it comes time for UAA and UAF to do battle,
Mm.
it'll be fun to watch this
Just when
season.
you thought that rivalry couldn't get any more fierce.
Yeah. Right now they're 1 and 2 in the GNAC standings. So Western Washington right behind them. St. Martin's, by the way, is fourth so far in conference play. Western Oregon is ninth. They only played one conference game so far this season. All right. Well, all
Got
right.
one
You got one thing. What did we got?
for sport, and that's flag football. A lot of stuff happened.
Yes, yes.
One of the things that's happened is Wasilla is the clear favorite. And I think what's interesting about that is flag football in the Valley is in its third season. And for Wasilla to be as dominant, and one example that Lauren Crone would want me to mention is in recent games, Wasilla put 55 up against Diamond at Diamond and then scored 42 when Diamond came out to Wasilla. Well, Diamond is 10 and 1 in the Cook Inlet Conference. South is also 10 and 1. So those two teams are fighting out at the top, and Wasilla is just dominating the
The
other
Valley.
who haven't been at it that long, but they're beating everybody they play. Savannah Crone, uh, quarterback, runner pass. Uh, she can really do it all with good speed. And then I think Keaton, if it was you, you would say they have a plethora of receivers, but I would say they have a bevy of receivers.
Ooh.
So,
Okay. How about cornucopia since we're in the fall, you know?
hey, you one up me on that one.
I'll try to sometimes. But no, flag football obviously also in full gear. We'll touch more on that in the next episode of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast, as they're also starting to get closer to their postseason as well. Defending champ from a year ago, by the way, North Pole Patriots. So looking to defend their
Yeah.
crown from
They're,
last year.
they're the only state championship in the history of flag football because it
That's
only
it.
became a flag, state championship event last year.
Well, we'll have another one this year, so we'll see if they can go back to back and make it happen.
Happens the first week in October.
Yes, it does. It's already getting cold. You know, it's football postseason when the weather is turning, leaves are falling. So it's already here. It's already upon us.
Are you predicting snow for championship events?
Ooh, I am going to say yes, but I don't think it's going to stick. I think it might snow, but I don't think it's going to really accumulate or stick.
I thought I saw just a little dusting of the mountains, and
Yeah.
I got a good view of them, so I'll keep an eye on it. And I know you live in the mountains.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I saw that as well up in the mountains this morning. The termination dust is already upon us. So we'll keep you informed with our weather forecast as well here on the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. We'll just look out the window and let you know what's going on. So
We're the kind of weather people that if we're getting wet, we'll say it's raining.
there you
We
go.
won't tell you what's going on in an hour.
Right. Right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Once again, happy birthday to our friend, broadcast co-host Isaiah Freeman. And then hopefully he'll be back on with us next week after his trip down in Minnesota as well. For Brad Lauwers, myself, Keaton Homer, once again, be sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you out there at some Alaska sporting events this week.